Xiaomi Poco F7 Ultra. This phone is trying so hard to be the cool kid, flexing a speedy Qualcomm chip and enough battery life to last longer than your New Year's resolutions. The cameras finally stopped pretending, and now snap photos you'll actually want to show off, all packed into a chunky frame that feels tougher than your gym trainer's pep talks. But between its high price, overheating issues, and a design that screams, "I ate too many protein bars," it's the champion for value, unless you want elegance and true flagship camera magic. 8 out of 10. Xiaomi Poco F7. The Poco F7 shows up with more stamina than your last 3 dates combined, blazing through games and apps on its larger-than-life AMOLED display with the confidence of a caffeinated cat. Its flashy design will get you noticed at the bus stop, and the battery will still be kicking after your Netflix marathon, but that camera's wide-angle lens seems to have called in sick. In a sea of boring mid-rangers, this one swims circles around the competition. Just don't expect superstar photos at night. 7 out of 10. Google Pixel 9. Google's Pixel 9 is the Android answer to the one phone to rule them all, dazzling with AI tricks that make your ex look even more forgettable in photos. It glides through a day of doom scrolling and selfie sprees with battery life that won't ghost you before dinner, and that camera is still the king of the family group chat. But the slow charging is so last century, and some Pixel quirks stick around like glitter after a party. 8 out of 10. Apple iPhone 16. The iPhone 16e tries to sell you minimalist chic with its lone 48-megapixel camera and a display that's fine if your eyeballs agree to avoid sunlight, but it still insists on showing off a clunky notch that belongs in a museum. You get solid battery life and Apple's latest chip running the show, yet iOS changes feel like someone swapped your ice cream spoon for a toothpick and called it innovation. Plus, you can forget MagSafe or telephoto shots for now. If your heart beats for performance and you love paying extra for simplicity, cool. But I'm docking major points for the snooze-worthy design and those gaming hiccups. 5 out of 10. OnePlus Nord 4. Nord 4 rolls into town, flexing a gorgeous aluminum body that says, "Look, I'm not plastic and I know it." With performance and battery life that punch well above its mid-range weight class. The camera won't win the moon landing, but snaps and videos look snazzy. The display is vibrant, charging is so fast it practically time travels, and the build will survive a minor apocalypse. Wireless charging and headphone jack not invited. If you want a phone that feels like a flagship but doesn't charge flagship prices, this is the mid-range king waving from its throne. 9 out of 10. Nothing Phone 3A. With its see-through back and those weirdly hypnotic glyph lights, Nothing Phone 3A is the phone you pull out just to show off in cafes, and the camera actually snaps crisp shots unless the sun quits and refuses to help. Everyday performance is decent, battery won't leave you stranded, and the display turns heads. But when things get busy, the chip huffs and puffs and you catch it napping. Plus, the software is more stylish than smart. If you like bold looks and a camera that tries its best, this is a budget trickster with real personality. Just don't ask it to sprint. 7 out of 10. Honor 200 Pro. Meet the Honor 200 Pro. It flexes studio-style portrait effects like you are accidentally photogenic and packs battery life longer than your average binge session. Plus, that screen is brighter than your future at a music festival. But beware, the curvy display is busy collecting phantom touches, while the design looks charming enough for grandma's Sunday purse, and the quirky software might leave you missing your old phone's normalcy. Still, for that price, this thing delivers way more than it should, and snaps photos worthy of way more followers. So if you can live with a few oddities, it is a vibe. 7 out of 10. Samsung Galaxy A56. The Galaxy A56 wants you to know you can have a near-flagship display in a mid-range body, plus its battery lasts longer than most office meetings, and it shrugs off accidental drops with a sturdy build that is ready for real life. Just do not mistake it for a gaming beast, unless you like watching games skip frames like a kitten on espresso. And while the peak brightness could be brighter, nobody is squinting in the sun here. Good photos, clean software, and budget happiness make this the phone for your practical, no-nonsense bestie who still likes a little flair. 8 out of 10. Motorola Edge 60. Grab the Motorola Edge 60 if you want a phone so thin it is basically on a diet. A screen so bright you may need sunglasses indoors, and a camera that loves selfies almost as much as you do. Okay, the processor is slower than a turtle on vacation, and losing wireless charging is like going back to plugging in your headphones. But at least the build is tough enough to survive your clumsy coffee moments. If you love a pretty design but are not chasing esports speed, the Edge 60 keeps things stylish and practical, but do not call it perfect. 6 out of 10. OnePlus Nord 5. The OnePlus Nord 5 is basically a caffeine-addicted sprinter, rocking a massive 6,800 mAh battery and a speedy Snapdragon 8s Gen 3, but it feels like it skipped leg day when it comes to camera performance. The chunky glass back is screaming, "I'm shiny, but I miss being metal," and if you try taking group selfies at night, be prepared for everyone to look sort of mysterious, maybe even a little blurry. It's the mid-range phone for people who want pure speed but don't care if their Instagram feed looks like a Monet painting. 8 out of 10. Samsung Galaxy A55. Samsung's Galaxy A55 is like showing up to a budget party in an aluminum tuxedo with a surprisingly crisp 6.6-inch Super AMOLED display and cameras that might just convince your mother you've cleaned your room. It promises years of updates and security, which means it'll keep up with you longer than your last gym membership, but the speakers sound about as passionate as your morning alarm clock. If you want a daily driver that refuses to quit, and you're not expecting a Grammy-winning audio experience, 9 out of 10. Xiaomi Poco F6 Pro. The Poco F6 Pro comes flexing with a bright, punchy 6.67-inch display, last year's flagship processor, and enough RAM to run a Galaxy-sized group chat. But durability clearly missed the invitation. One drop and it's having an existential crisis about Gorilla Glass. The battery and speed are champs, gaming is smooth, and the design's trying very hard to convince you it's a grown-up. But skipping out on water resistance and wireless charging feels cheeky for the price. If you want flagship flavor and can live dangerously, this will spice up your tech life. 7 out of 10. Xiaomi Poco F7 Pro. The Poco F7 Pro strides in with an OLED display that is so bright, your corneas might just file a workplace complaint, and a battery chunkier than a winter parka breezing through a day, even if you forget where you parked your charger. The Snapdragon chip inside is pure overkill for mid-range gaming, but the camera is just average, lacking any zoom magic. So selfie snipers beware, you get what you pay for here. All things considered, if you want value, performance, and battery, but don't care about fancy photo ops, this is the mid-range penny pincher's dream. 8 out of 10. Realme GT7. The Realme GT7 packs a 7,000 mAh battery that could probably jumpstart your neighbor's car and charges so fast, you'll never have time for a coffee break. Its processor runs smooth most days, but turn up the gaming and you'll discover a heating issue so spicy it could double as a hand warmer. Plus, the camera gives you a lot on paper but sometimes oversaturates like a thrift store Instagram filter. If stamina and charging speed are your jam, and you aren't picky about flawless build or marathon gaming, it's a solid all-rounder but not mid-range royalty. 7 out of 10. Nothing Phone 3A Pro. The Nothing Phone 3A Pro is all flash, literally. Its LED-packed see-through shell screams for attention while those cameras finally stop being embarrassing, even offering some solid zoom for amateur photo ninjas. Performance is good enough for daily use, but the battery could use some spinach, and the processor is more chill than turbo, so power users might scoff while casuals just keep vibing. Bottom line, if you want a phone that looks like a disco ball, and can shoot crisp snaps but don't live life on the extreme, the 3A Pro is the coolest kid at the mid-range party, even if it dances funny. 8 out of 10. OnePlus 13s. The OnePlus 13s squeezes premium performance into a pint-sized body that will not rip your jeans or your wallet, but its camera chops are more meh than masterpiece. Sure, the battery seems unstoppable and the Snapdragon makes apps fly, yet you might cry a little inside when you realize there is no wide-angle lens or wireless charging. If you love compact speed demons and can forgive a couple of missing features, this little guy dreams big, but gets grounded by reality. 7 out of 10. Oppo Reno 13. Oppo's Reno 13 struts in with a fancy new design and a glowing camera ring that screams, "Look at me!" But underneath that glimmer, you will find reliable daily performance and smooth battery life, ideal for marathon binge sessions and finger smudge-free living. However, the whole experience dials back the spice when the camera faces harsh lighting and bloatware apps poke their nose in where they are not wanted, so rival phones might perform even better for the same cash. Unique style, sturdy vibe, okay cameras. Reno 13 is your mid-range hero who forgot his cape. 7 out of 10. Honor 400. With the Honor 400, you get a mid-range contender that flaunts a 200-megapixel camera and a display so bright it can tan your face while you text, plus a battery that outlasts your energy at the end of the weekend. AI tricks make your photos come alive, and 6 years of software updates will keep it fresher than last week's bread, but heavy-duty gamers and camera snobs may spot a few downgrades compared to last year's model. For budget buyers wanting slick looks, big battery, and a snazzy camera, the Honor 400 is hard to beat, even if it is not quite magic. 8 out of 10. Motorola Edge 60 Pro. Motorola's Edge 60 Pro struts in with a dazzling curved 6.7-inch display so bright you could use it to tan, and the durable grip actually makes you feel like a responsible adult for not dropping your phone every 5 minutes. It lasts practically forever on a single charge, and for the mid-range crowd, you get speed, giant storage, and enough camera zoom to expose your neighbor's questionable lawn gnome collection. Though photo colors sometimes look about as lively as last Tuesday's leftovers. The only real drama? It gets hotter than a jalapeno sunbathing, and software updates will ghost you after a few years. So enjoy the spark while it lasts. 7 out of 10. Motorola Edge 50. Meet the Motorola Edge 50, the phone that claims it can handle city life, suburbia, and even life next to sheep. If you judge a phone on its signal bars alone, the vegan leather finish and rugged build say, "I'm fashionable but also ready to survive a toddler." And the bright, colorful screen is just the cherry on top. But mediocre battery life and sluggish performance remind you it is, in fact, mid-range and proud. If you want reliable selfies and a phone that never complains when it falls off the couch, you are golden. But don't bring this one to a gaming marathon or expect battery miracles. 6 out of 10. Samsung Galaxy S24. Samsung's Galaxy S24 is that overachiever who brings 7 years of software updates to the party, flexes a battery life that just will not quit, and slices through daily tasks with a punchy processor. The smaller size says, "Hey, I actually fit in your pocket," while the vivid, crisp display turns even boring emails into a mini cinema. Although Samsung's software is as confusing as your grandma's spice rack, and some camera tricks just feel like showing off. For the price, this is the mid-range Android hero that will stick with you through thick and thin, even if it occasionally hides features behind 5 menus and a riddle. 8 out of 10. Samsung Galaxy S25. Samsung packed so much speed and style into this little powerhouse, you might worry the phone is trying to outrun your finger, especially since the under-display scanner still plays hard to get. The AMOLED display sparkles like a face wash ad, and battery life muscles through a full day. But for all its flash, the camera and software feel stuck in a Groundhog Day cycle. Still, it's Samsung's best S-series yet, even if it doesn't quite reinvent the wheel. So I'll call it a fast, shiny déjà vu. 7 out of 10. Samsung Galaxy S24 FE. This big, bold, mid-range slabs a 6.7-inch screen into your hand like it is auditioning for your next binge-watching marathon. And let me tell you, it's having a moment. Except the battery might call it quits before you do. The cameras show up with a little telephoto extra flair. Its feature list is basically a tribute to pricier Samsung siblings, and the IP68 rating means it can actually survive a splash of regret when you drop it, which you will. Feels almost flagship, but stops just short. So if you want all the glitz for less dough, this is your fancy fan edition with a slight emphasis on fan. 8 out of 10. Motorola Edge 50 Pro. The Edge 50 Pro flaunts a smooth 144Hz display, some fun party tricks, karate chop for flashlight anyone, and a 50-megapixel selfie cam dreaming of your TikTok fame. But then the not-so-mighty processor turns those dreams into slightly sluggish reality. You get all-day battery with warp speed charging, and sturdy build makes it feel pricier than it is, but software support runs out before its jokes do. So don't plan to keep it around for 7 years of upgrades unless you're living in the past. It is fun until things get competitive, where Google and Samsung start taking its lunch money. 6 out of 10. OnePlus Nord CE5. This phone is chasing mid-range glory with a chunky battery and a 50-megapixel camera, but it lacks stereo sound and the selfie cam just waves hello before running away from detail. Multitasking is smooth thanks to a modern chip, but the plastic build and water resistance feel more bargain bin than bravado. If you want core features and big juice but can live with meh extras, it might win you over. 6 out of 10. Xiaomi 14T Pro. This phone flashes a display so bright you could toast bread with it, and the performance is spicy enough to rival the big flagships, but the battery life just shrugs and says, "Hey, good enough." Cameras engineered by Leica really steal the show, but beware the onboard bloatware lurking behind the scenes, plus it can get a bit warm if you start gaming like a maniac. If you're after a slick screen and monster snaps while forgiving a few quirks, it's a top-tier pick. 8 out of 10. OnePlus 13R. Who said mid-range has to mean boring? This OnePlus dazzles with a flagship-level processor, buttery smooth and bright display, and battery stamina that will outlast your daily doom-scrolling by hours, plus the camera holds its own against pricier rivals. It's not absolutely perfect. The cheapest model was banished, and some features feel a bit last update. But this is hands down one of the best bargains if you want killer performance for less. 9 out of 10. Samsung Galaxy S24 Plus. The S24 Plus struts out looking all premium, but under the gloss, it borrows moves from its mid-range siblings, just with a slightly fancier outfit. The battery holds up decently, the screen is easy on the eyes, and Samsung's software support will stick with you longer than most healthy relationships. But rivals like the Galaxy A56 are far more wallet-friendly for nearly the same experience. Unless you have a soft spot for flagship sparkle, this one feels like mid-range pretending to be rich at the club. 6 out of 10.